So welcome along to this episode of Blast Bites. This evening I have the pleasure of talking to Adrian Stott, who might be known to some of you as Tarrant. Tarrant has many hats in the running world, and he's a well-kent face, certainly around Edinburgh, if not all over Scotland, and even further afield for wearing all these different hats, or shoes, I should say. In Edinburgh, he'll be well known to many of you for selling and giving you advice on the right trainers to wear. He is the current manager of Run and Become. I actually came to your shop when it was in Dowry Road. I remember it being there, the little shop compared to the bigger one. But you may also have taken part in one of Tarrant's races. So he's one of the West Highland Way race organisers. He also does the Self Transendence series at the Meadows every year, including the Sri Jimnoy 5K down at Silver House, which is a very fast and very competitive field down there. Many PBs have been gained down at that race. And what else I was going to say? And also, you might not have known it, but you probably run in a race that he has officially measured for Scottish Athletics. So even if you didn't know it, you probably have a link to Tarrant if you're a runner. But what we don't know much about is himself as a runner. And I did a little bit of digging, and we have a British champion tonight, the 1999 24-hour running champion. Adrian represented GB and Northern Ireland at least 3 times, which is outstanding over the years. And yes, I bow to your greatness. But he's very modest as well, so I'm going to have to keep needling away to find out. So welcome along. Would you prefer me to call you Adrian or Tarrant? I've always called you Adrian.
Adrian. Most people know me as Adrian. That's okay.
Okay. Yeah. But what's the Tarrant?
Tarrant is a name as a lot of my friends know, I've been involved with the Sri Chinmoy Centre, which is a meditation and yoga group for many years, and it was a name that I was given by Sri Chinmoy as part of the meditation group. Yes. Oh, and it's an Indian name that means lightning speed, so quite apt for a runner.
Very apt. Yeah. So thank you for giving up your evening to chat to me. Okay. How long have you been a runner, Adrian?
Well, I think I was quoted recently in another thing like this I did, that my mum said I ran my first race when I was 4 years old, and then as I got older they just got longer. I did a lot of sport at school, mainly sort of the usual things: football, rugby, cricket, all those sort of things. Did cross country, did track and field. In the summer, I was under 14 800-meter champion at my school when I was in Cornwall, which is quite a buzz when you're.
Oh yeah.
And then when I left school, I couldn't really commit to team games, so running was just something, as we all know, you can do as much as you like when you like. Just head out the door, do it. And this is when I lived in Cornwall, and I was brought up in a very idyllic little village by the coast in North Cornwall called Polzeth. Some of you may know if you've been to Cornwall. And I just started running around the cliffs on the beaches, fabulous. Yeah.
Wow.
And then moved to Scotland, and everything just sort of got longer. Fell with a bad crowd and met some ultra runners, yes.
And so can you say that again, sorry?
Everything went downhill after I met a few.
Can you remember what your 800-meter time was at school?
I think I got, when I won the school championship, it was about, probably about 220, something like that. I was about 14. I think I did get it down to single figures, about 2.7, 2.8, something like that. Yeah. So
very good.
I wasn't really doing running training, it's just something you just did.
Well, I know, as a lot of kids and teenagers are, they just, you don't train, you just go and run your race. That's the joy of youth.
I guess, and as I got older, I just got into longer things. Did my first marathon probably far too young. I was about 24, 25, and then followed shortly after as my first 50 miler. And then I was still living down in Cornwall. Then I did my first, there's a very famous race which some people would have heard of, the London to Brighton road race, which is 55 miles on the road from Big Ben. So you run down to this coast at Brighton and dip your feet in the sea, and then you're going to have tea in the Mare at the town hall. It was fabulous. And that was hard. And then I moved to Scotland and found the hills, and the trails.
And so are we talking 80s for that, or when did you move up?
Moved up in 1981.
So the running scene obviously was established, but certainly not what it's like now?
No.
No.
People want a longer interview. I'm going to swap podcasts here. I had an interview with Kyle at the time Running Shorts recently, and I mentioned a bit more about that there. But I, long story short, I did my first marathon, then got into ultras. When I moved to Scotland, I think even in the early 80s, there were about a handful of ultra races, and even just a handful of marathons.
Yeah,
happening in Scotland. Yeah.
Only
really the two bridges in Scotland, and then the West Highland Way came on the scene mid 80s.
And were you part of that? Were you part of that race from the start?
The West Highland Way.
No.
You have to thank two gentlemen called Duncan Watson and Bobby Shields for that.
Right.
Some people listening to this will know the story, but West Highland Way was set up in the very early 80s. And some of the Glasgow clubs and Lochaber, I think Shettleston, Clydesdale and Lochaber used to have a relay race up the Highland Way. And it was just a question of time before some inspired or bonkers person just decided, I can do this in a wanna. What's the problem? Stepped forward Duncan Watson, and he laid down the challenge, and Bobby Shields took up the challenge. And Duncan was like a good hill runner. Bobby Shields was probably one of the best at the time.
Right.
He was Jacob Adkin of then. He'd won the Ben Nevis race and was one of the leading hill runners. And they just set off from Milgay. 17 and a half hours later, they were in Fort William.
Wow.
And the next week, Duncan invited a few more friends, and the race has sort of grown.
It just grew from there. And did he have any support, or did he just go off and do it?
Legend has it, and this is on good authority from chatting to Duncan many times over the years. Bobby's wife followed them in a car. Duncan just shipped up by himself, allegedly with just a little carrier bag with a couple of bottles of water and some sandwiches. And that was it. I mean, those days, there were no Garmins, there were no gels, there were no hydration packs.
Yeah.
We just got out and did things.
Did things. Well, I know, but I mean, I've never done the full thing, but you've just reminded me. I did the Cali challenge a couple of times, so that was just 54 miles, nothing. But a girl I was running with in the same team who was incredible, Kate. I'm so sorry, Kate. Her name escapes me. But she brought out a tin of sardines. So she wasn't interested in gels. She wasn't interested in, like you say, all of that other stuff. She just got a kind of she said, no, it's all I need. I just need salt and protein. And off she went. She was phenomenal. Yeah.
It's nutrition, even for a marathon, let alone ultras, is such a personal thing. And
yes,
find what works for you.
Well, that's right. That's right. Yes.
People overthink it so much. Yes, you can. You find out what works for you, and you can study all the science, but you don't overthink it.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. And there's so much sugar involved now as well. And I'm not sure. Too much. And so, are you still enjoying competitive running yourself?
Oh, competitive is all relative. I'm getting my bus pass now quite comfortably. So
never.
I would say I am active recreational runner. Like most of us, I have not pinned on a number for a year or so.
Yeah. Yes.
I did a few virtual races last year. I've done one short one this year just to keep my and to be honest, I was a bit of a cynic about virtual races for many years. They've been happening for a long time, as we know. And when lockdown happened, they just sort of exploded. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to do one, because I always do. I never like to knock anything or pass judgment. You say, okay, let's just do a virtual race and just see what it's about. And I did one, and I was amazed at the whole sense of community around it. And you just see things from a totally different angle, and it's just, and when you look at some of the things that Scottish Athletics did and what Ian Beattie and myself did with the West Highland Way virtual race, and how we just sort of thought, will anyone do this? And hundreds are doing it. Yeah. And it's helped, and some people are still cynical about them, and that's fine. They're not for everybody, but they have certainly helped develop the whole sense of community and belonging for so many people.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah. At all levels, from sort of people who can't do the park run and want to go and do not the park run on it, or do your blast run and do your things as well, to people like Johnny Glenn, who did the last Scottish virtual 5K and had a blast. Just did his own little time trial and did an amazing sort of 8-kilometer time. So there's something in it for everybody. You just dive in and dip into them as you want to. But
absolutely,
if you're a runner for life, and you just embrace all the challenges. I've always been one that I'm never one to sort of pigeonhole people that, oh, I'm a hill runner, I'm a trail runner, I'm a triathlete. It's just endurance, and there's just challenges out there we can all embrace.
Oh, absolutely. I did a few, not so much organized virtual races, but just club virtual stuff during summer. And it's amazing how you really do run harder.
It's kept so much community going with the clubs. Yeah, it has. Yeah, and not just in running. I hear it from other sports as well. All sports have a little thing, and especially it's motivated the juniors. Yes. What we don't want is to lose a whole generation of juniors on that whole conveyor belt of going from sort of 12, 13, 14, and running is a huge, big adventure, which is setting them up for life and keeping them positive and keeping them off the streets as well. And just the way that the virtual things have just kept the kids motivated has been fantastic.
Absolutely. And so you're talking about juniors there, but you also mentioned off camera, but that you want to be running in your 70s as well. And that's definitely absolutely. So to that end, I suppose, what advice would you give these teenagers? Because you also mentioned that you thought you did a marathon too young.
Yeah.
Is that related to what you're saying?
Yes and no. It depends. Everybody's body is different. You've always got, if you remember back at school when you had, most of us were just mere mortals and things, but it's always one boy or girl in the class who was just good at everything.
Yeah.
And they stood out, and they could run, they could jump, they had all the eye-hand coordination, and they could run. And they're the sort of people that could probably do anything anytime they want to.
Yeah, the gladiators.
And they're just as the coaches said, they chose their parents well. They've just got the gene pool that makes them strong and healthy, and they're going to be good at whatever they do, rugby, soccer, whatever. But for mere mortals, they can do anything. But if I could give anyone's best advice, there's such a temptation to go and run a marathon. We see it in Run and Become. You get people coming in, they've done the couch to 5K, and you see them 6 months later, I'm doing a 10K now, and then before you know it, they're doing a marathon. And I think, wow, that's really inspiring, but big but.
Yeah. And so do you have little red flags going off? What?
Exactly. Yeah. With another hat on, some people know that I am also team manager of Scottish and Great Britain Ultra Distance teams. Which means I talk.
Say that again, sorry.
Great Britain and Scotland ultra distance teams.
Right, okay.
I'm involved with, I won't name drop, but some very good elite ultra runners. Mm-hmm. Not coaching them. I've never done a coaching route. I'm a sort of linchpin to make sure they've all got their own little thing going on. They've got their own coaching and that. But even they are guilty of overtraining.
Yeah.
At an elite level. In athletes, there's a red line waiting for everybody.
And by that, the word injury is springing to mind? Is that the worry there?
Yep. Yeah. The banes of any endurance athlete, whatever your level, whether you're just doing couch to 5K, because we get, just like last summer, through lockdown, so many people started running.
Yes.
And as soon as we opened up again, all these couch to 5Ks are coming in the shop, loving it. But I've started couch to 5K. I've now got something wrong with my shin. I've now got something wrong with my knee. And it's even at that level, it's great. They've got the enthusiasm to get up and do something, but it's just follow the schedule. Yeah.
Too much.
And you talk with people, I was doing couch 5K and I just started going a bit farther and a bit faster. And it's like any physio will tell you, it's all in the training diary.
Yeah.
Any injury, it's keep it in the training diary. It's all there where it happens. What's the trigger to make that injury happen?
Yeah, that's
There's a trigger there somewhere.
Increased miles, less rest, absolutely.
Saying goes, you don't get injured sitting in an armchair. You get injured.
That's not our message. That's not our message, Adrian.
I know, but you get injured when you get up and start trying to do something to make progress.
Yeah, I know.
You push yourself too much. It's weird, but that's how it is. Yeah.
Or
you're a rugby player. If you're a rugby player, you're getting bashed around the field. But if you're a runner, most running injuries are self-inflicted.
I know, because I think a lot of injuries are blamed on footwear, but don't know if it's, I don't know personally if it's
true.
the case.
That can be true if you hang on to your shoes too long. That's all down to biomechanics as well. Don't get too boring about it, but if you have bad biomechanics generally, and that could just be genetic, that's nobody's fault. Blame your parents for that as well, if you like. Yeah. But everyone has to pay attention to the biomechanics, and some people can get away with going to Lidl and getting a £10 pair of sneakers off the shelf and have no problems whatsoever.
Yeah.
And other people just cannot run a mile without having a shoe that's got the right support and the right cushioning.
Yeah.
Again, it's an individual thing, but a good pair of shoes is worth its weight in gold if you're getting recurrent injuries. Yeah.
And one thing, do you get to try out all these new shoes? Do you get to test drive them all?
Shall we say the odd pair of shoes comes my way from some of the companies. Yeah. When I was running a lot, and some of the guys in the running companies knew I was running a lot and what I was doing. Yeah, I got used as a wear tester a few times to give feedback on some advanced copies of shoes, which is always fun. Yeah. Nowadays, I still get a few shoes, and I pass comments on them if I'm asked. Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
And yeah, there's the new. I should have written it down. There's the new material, foam, that a lot of the new shoes have got in it.
Yeah, they've all got this variations. Shoes have changed so.
I know.
Well, the basic thing in a shoe hasn't changed in some ways. As the chief executive of a major running brand once confided in me, there's only so much you can wrap around the foot. And then the marketing guys take over.
Yeah.
And there are good stories out there that work and are amazing. There's been some amazing innovations over the years. But even us as any running shop, whoever it is, we're getting bombarded with all the stuff from the running companies, as you, the runner, are getting bombarded by all this stuff. And I always take the words of a very good old physio friend of mine. Remember, some people listening might remember Guy Van Herp, who was a physio at Medibank for many years. He passed away last year, sadly. But whenever there's any new theory, whether it's diet, whether it's physio, whether it's shoes, he'd always just say to me, "Where's the science? Find the science and find the peer-reviewed science, and then you'll know if it's
and then you'll know."
Yeah. It's the market. Anyone can tell a good marketing story, and people believe it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure there's quite
I'm not against advances in technology, but yeah, with all the new, I'm not going to mention any names, all the new spongy carbon-plated stuff. Yeah, there's merit in it, but you've still got to train.
You must get asked all the time about that.
Yeah, and again, look at the science. Is it right for you too? A lot of the carbon-plated shoes, they're designed for people running at a certain pace and a certain cadence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Surely
comfort's key. Surely.
Comfort is key. What works for you? What is very topical at the moment, rightly so, is the whole ethical sourcing of a lot of these products. I mean, clothing you can deal with fairly easily in terms of trying to source ethical things, or easier. With shoes, it's very difficult. No matter how manufactured, there's a lot of companies are getting good at doing the whole circular thing and using recycled materials, and using circular motion is the buzzword now, so that you're using things again and again and again, and the circular motion of things going round and around the whole manufacturing chain. But the basic products are still not very biodegradable, should we say?
I hadn't ever thought of that.
What you're trying to look at,
make sure you get lots of miles in those shoes.
Well, this is the whole thing. A lot of these new shoes, they're good for a couple hundred miles, and then And I shouldn't be saying that because I sell a lot of running shoes, as you all know. But we at Run and Become especially, we like to give people value for money.
Yes. And
I read a very interesting blog post recently related to shoes. Might be a bit off tangent, but this gets people thinking. And it wasn't just about running shoes; it's about how we can be green in ourselves. And yes, the governments make big decisions about things. That's how things will change globally. But individually, we can make things. And one of the biggest things we can do is just to buy something that's going to last a decent time. So you just lower consumption generally. You can just lower your personal consumption in any sort of way. So why buy a pair of shoes that last 200 miles when you get one that lasts 500?
That's a really good point.
I'm that sort of guy. You just try to look at things from different angles and just sort of, and we often get earache from people that want to become, but oh, I got these shoes, didn't last very long. And you think, yeah, okay, what should we be wearing them for, etc., etc. If you've been up and down a ski slope and gone trashed, which is quite easy to do, you know, on an early run. But you want a pair of shoes that at least going to give you 700 miles. You know,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Let me take you back.
Maybe shoes last longer, but it's like that, like anything in this whole consumer-driven world. But everyone's rethinking. We don't want, you know, we're getting trashed by the marketing people. Buy this again and again and again. This is an upgrade. This is an upgrade. Why can't we just invest in technology that just makes things last again?
When you were doing your 24-hour
yes.
races, I'm just thinking of trainers and what have you. Did you wear the same trainers for the whole 24 hours? Did you stop at all?
In my best races, yes. Because when I got sort of vaguely competent at these things, yeah, I know some people go to 24-hour races and they will bring about 5 different pairs of shoes. Even doing something like the West Highland Way, you look in the back of some people's cars and you think, oh my gosh. I was always of the, I think, you may not know this, but I did the West Highland Way 15 times, race. And I still think I can do another one if I need time to train properly. Might happen again. But I always just looked at the weather, looked at how fit I was, chose one pair of shoes and just went with it. Especially when I was looking for good time, especially my best 24-hour races, I was trying to go for a really good distance. You just haven't got time to fritter around changing shoes.
Well, you're in race mode, aren't you?
Yeah.
How far did you go in the 24 hours?
My best 24 hour was, well, in kilometers, 230k and a bit, which is 143 miles plus. Yeah.
Oh my word.
That's, well, that's okay.
Oh, come on, it's amazing.
Well, no, because I mean, now, even then, the top guys were doing 150, 160 miles.
Okay.
And it's telephone numbers I know, and because I'm a stat geek for ultras, which is another hat I wear, because the world record for 24 hours is 183 miles in 24 hours. The guys one. Ladies one is, I can't remember exact. Camille Heron's just recently did 167 miles, I think it is, 24 hours.
And is it round the track?
Varies. Round a 40 meter track is good. Otherwise, it's usually around a park.
Okay.
And to get the big miles, it's usually, there are so many trail 24-hour races now, which is great and it's fun. But if you want to get a certified distance, you've got to do it on a course that can be measured accurately.
Yeah.
And trail courses, because the nature can't be measured as accurately as a road or a 40 meter track. Yeah. So.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I want to keep on talking, but my timer's gone, and I know that yes, we're way over time. But I've still got more questions, but I think we'll probably have to stop there. But
we can do a part two. We can do a part two.
We can do a part two.
No, plenty of other people to talk to, I'm sure.
Oh, I've got a long list of people to talk to, but I'm really enjoying our chat. So yeah, let's try and get that booked in. Maybe once the races are started again. I can't.
Please, yes, yeah.
It's on the horizon. It's on the horizon.
So many race organisers are making plans, as you are, as we are. You know, we live in hope that we'll be able to pin a number on again soon. This summer, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, in some format. Yeah.
Thank you.